Listen carefully to the voice of Todd.
Hey, Ari, are you there? Are you there, buddy?
Yep.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
You still not drinking?
I'm still not drinking, although I'd like to.
Oh, shit. You never had a drink your whole life. Not one.
That's right, Todd Shapiro.
Not one drink.
Come on.
You know how much money you must have saved over time? Think about that.
I actually have thought about that at different times, to be honest.
That's how you bought a cottage.
It didn't hurt.
Seriously.
It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt.
And you're you know, you never got married, so I mean, you date a lot though. Do you date a lot?
I date a lot, but I don't have an extremely expensive dating life. I don't go to the Four Seasons for dinner every night.
Are you a cheap date?
Nope, not at all. But I also know that I've never bought into that whole, buy me dinner for X and you get Y. I never liked that idea. And no, I never got married, so I've never lost 50% of what I've made in a divorce.
For those wondering what X and Y was, that's have a nice meal and then get your penis sucked. That's what Ari was referring to.
I said nothing like that. I don't know what you're referring to. I was just talking about good conversation.
I know. I love good conversation. It's the best thing in the world.
We all do.
Well, you bring us good conversation every Tuesday.
Well, I appreciate that.
But you're like, are you feeling a little bit not just cynical, but are you feeling a little bit down about what's going on in this world?
I think, particularly after President Obama's hellacious, horrendous speech today, the world as we know it is over, and the Western world has essentially submitted.
Wow, some would say that's cynical. We have that speech, Ari. Why don't we play that for those who haven't heard it? So just sit back, have a listen, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam. That's the key, they tell us. We can't beat ISIL unless we call them radical Islamists. What exactly would using this label accomplish? Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away.
We can stop there.
Yeah, stop here. All right, how you doing? Okay.
So just so you know, this is not the part that I am indignant about. He went on for about 25 minutes, and certainly we're not going to play it for 25 minutes. But, this is a world, and, I've certainly not seen enough people saying this. I've seen some people saying it, but this is essentially a Western leadership, and I'm including Europe in this, that have essentially bowed over, just bowed down. There is complete submission now. The people, the beautiful people in that nightclub, and this is the worst part about it for me, the beautiful, beautiful people in that nightclub, they've all died in vain. The people in the trade towers, World Trade Center, 2001, we don't talk about that enough. These are 4,000 people that were killed by 19 very specific people who all shared an ideology, who all shared a belief system, not this constant label of ISIS. Every time I hear the word ISIS, I want to throw my phone at a TV. It's this fictional thing. And for Obama to say, well, it's just about naming it radical Islam today, that's what it's about, that's what Donald Trump is tweeting about, is absolutely wrong. Donald Trump can't even say what he really wants to say about this belief system. But for the 4,000 people, 3,900 people who died at the World Trade Center in 2001, 15 years ago, every widow or widower or child or brother, and I've probably said this to you before in other contexts, maybe even privately, they jumped from a burning building, and all the Western world has done to that belief system is say, we love you, we welcome you, we have no problem with you, we don't question you, we don't ask hard questions. And that lack of questioning applies to no other religion. It doesn't apply to Judaism. It doesn't apply to Hinduism. It doesn't apply to the Church of Scientology. It doesn't apply to gays and lesbians. But somehow, and this is just unbelievable to me, and I invite your listeners, don't listen to me, listen to Obama's speech where he tells the world that everything is okay in a certain religion just because there's billions. Because there's billions. Well, nobody takes more abuse than the Church of Scientology, that wacky organization Tom Cruise and John Travolta belong to. But the reason why it's fair game on them is because there's only a couple 100,000 at best, and I may be way exaggerating that. Somehow, because there's a billion or a 1.7 billion or a 1.8 billion of a different religious group doesn't mean that 1 billion people are terrorists or that 1 billion people are. But when you look at the belief system of this man and the values, the homophobia, people talking about that this is homophobia. This is not homophobia. I mean, I'm sorry to go on a rant here, but this is the ultimate cop-out that people are saying this was homophobic. No, homophobia is rampant throughout the world. There are Christians, Jews, people in our families who don't like gay people. The last thing they would ever do is kill a gay person. The last thing, even the most staunch right-wing idiot Republican, gun-loving idiot Republican, Duck Dynasty, Ted Nugent idiot would ever do, even in the face of his unbelievable homophobia, the last thing they would ever do is murder a gay person. They may not buy a cake from them. They may not want them to get married. They may not want them to teach certain things in schools, which is homophobic and stupid, but they would never, ever walk into a nightclub and blow 50 people away. And I'll stop my rant so you can interrupt, because this is really horrible to me that this is now somehow about everything other than this man's belief system. It's about homophobia or it's about guns. Anybody listening to this, and I know how many listeners you have now because your shows have been even better in the last while. They're incredible. Anybody listening to this should find the clip on Facebook or Snapchat where the sounds of the shots, the actual sounds of the murder, are online. And when you listen to that, and then you listen to President Obama's speech, castigating people, criticizing people for saying there's a problem with a religious ideology, even though the Pew Research Center, and people should know what that is, PEW Research Center, takes survey after survey, unbiased, about the views of gays, about the views of Jews, the views of women in a certain part of the world that shares a certain ideology, which I won't even name because, you know, if you name it, you get called a name, but I think people can fill it in. If you even look at the open answers on surveys, objective, the fact that these now men, tying it back to the World Trade Center, tying it back, that now these men have died in vain. These women have died in vain. And remember, Todd, and this is important, particularly to your listenership, I think, you cater to a certain demographic. We're not talking to 87-year-old people. The people in that gay, lesbian nightclub were the most beautiful of people. They were there to love, to party, to get laid, to celebrate, to dance. You could not imagine in the world a less violent, more loving group of people who loved the world, loved each other heavily and lived bravely, and to be gunned down in such a cowardly way, and then to have the President of the United States essentially say, we don't want to talk about this too much. We're going to go get ISIS in Syria. Well, Mr. Mateen was an American citizen. He's here. And these people are gone now, and we're not even talking about the 25 that are in intensive care, suffering in a hospital because of this monster. And what do all of these monsters share? They all share something in common that we cannot talk about. And all I fear, and, you know, this may hit you at home, Todd, because we make jokes about this, but it's not funny to me. There's going to be somebody going into a synagogue, and they're going to blow away 30 Jews in a synagogue. Well, at that point, when I see President Obama say, no, there's no problem here. There's nothing to see here. We're going to go bomb something in Syria or Iraq. And there's no, this doesn't reflect anything. This is a peaceful, loving day. at that point, I think my head will explode. But the amount of political correctness, for lack of a better term, thank God there's one presidential candidate. Thank God there's one. And even though I've said to you before, he's half-baked on 90% of things, at least there's one asking the question. If he wasn't around, Todd, there's not one person saying out loud what millions and hundreds of millions of people are asking, who have no malice in their heart, have no racism, no hate, but simply realize the world does not sing Kumbaya. I should stop.
What would you do, Ari Goldkind, if you had the opportunity to speak on a platform like President Obama? What would some of the things that you would say or address?
Well, the first thing I would do, and I won't actually take credit for this, I give credit to somebody I admire very much as Bill Maher.
Yep.
Okay? And so I won't pretend to be original here. Bill Maher goes through the numbers. He refutes everything President Obama says about, there's just a few stragglers out there in this religion. There's just a few bad apples, or it's a massive, massive, tiny minority. Anybody can watch Bill Maher, pull it up online. Look again at the Pew Research Center, PEW, and take a look at every single survey through every Mideast or Arab country, and particularly lately, a survey done of British Muslims, and take a look at their answers on Sharia law. Take a look at their answers on what should happen to homosexuals. Take a look at their answers as to what should happen to Jews, how women should be treated, and take a look at their answers to what should happen to anybody who just leaves the religion. And these are numbers that are not insignificant. And when the numbers and the facts get in the way of President Obama's narrative, because I don't know why President Obama has this narrative, but he's had it since he was president, which is everything is equal, everybody's great, nothing is bad, and I'm not going to say one word to criticize a religion that many of my family members belong to. And to me, that would be the same thing as me as a Jewish prime minister or a Jewish president having a Jew go in and blow away people in a mosque or in a church, and me, just because some of my relatives are Jewish or because I have some Jewish friends, not being willing to say, you know what, I've got a big problem in my religion. I've got violence in my religion. I've got intolerance in my religion. Well, if you can't look in the mirror and call things out, you can't fix them. So I'll end that point by saying anybody who wants to watch the rest of President Obama's speech today, where he told everybody, don't you dare criticize this religion. And by the way, if you do, it's going to create more terrorists. How cowardly and chicken shit and un-American is it to say, don't you dare say boo, because some crazy nut is going to go act on it. That, to me, I've never seen capitulation like it. I'm sorry I'm not being funny today, but this hits close to home.
As tough as the question is this to ask, do you foresee events like this happening anytime soon again?
Not only anytime soon, the worst part today, and this is something that I bet you, of the three of you in that studio, I bet you maybe only one or two know. Last night in France, and you may know where I'm going with this, the police commissioner and his wife are stabbed outside of their home while their baby is inside, stabbed in the name of ISIS by a Muslim man. It's a footnote on CNN. It's a footnote on CNN. This is the world we live in, and the question is, how many more attacks do there have to be until the left, not the right, until the left say, you know what, we on the left are supposed to be the ones who are pro-love, pro-tolerance. Transgender people should be able to use the bathroom. We're all about tolerance, same-sex marriage. But why they defend, and you've talked to other people about this who put it much more eloquently than me, but why there is this constant defense amongst the left by Jews, by gay people, of an ideology that wants to see gays and Jews wiped off the map, thrown from buildings. I will never understand, particularly when you have the lessons of the Holocaust, where you had Jews going like sheep to the slaughter. That's why I hate hate in this stupid, stupid climate in North America and Europe. This idea that just because people are born and breathe and eat the same air as everybody else, that everybody sees the world the same way or shares values, or that there's some special Big Mac sauce that when you come to the States, you're going to stand for what the States is. This man, Omar Satine, is an American citizen. This has nothing to do with ISIS or immigration or Syrian refugees. This is about the one elephant that's in the room that nobody, besides the three-quarters of the time moron that is Donald Trump, will call out. But this is not going to get better, Todd. This is going to get worse. This is the beginning of the end. And I've said that to you privately about 9/11.
Trying to make it somewhat, you can't make any of this stuff comical, but to relate it back to comedians and to the stage of going and doing stand-up comedy, where so many comics get sort of called out on making jokes, and then they get put towards human rights tribunals, and then they get fined, and it is amazing to me that there are more people trying to bring down comics than are necessarily trying to bring down terrorists of any religion. Right. And I just don't know at what point will this world kind of grab the bull by the horns and say, hey, listen, we need to start to maybe look at a very few people who have these views. And
it will never happen. It will never, ever happen.
Well, let me now. I need to phrase this. So, many of my friends are Muslim, and obviously many of my friends who are Muslim would never. You
don't need to say that. We all have Muslim friends. I work with them. I hate when people say that.
Okay, so hate when I say it, but I just did. My only fear is, how do we move forward addressing the issue of a certain religion?
I'll answer that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll answer that, because you don't have to do it. The problem is there are extraordinarily powerful speakers who are Muslim. Ayaan Hirsi Ali. People should Google her. She wrote a book called Heretic about why am I the only woman in my religion that comes out and criticizes it. And now there's
Milo Yiannopoulos brought her name up yesterday.
She is the most magnificent human being. She's been the bravest woman on earth. So when you're asking how it's done, white people aren't allowed to talk about it. Same way we're not allowed to talk about race. We're not allowed to talk about anything anymore because we're white. But Ayaan Hirsi Ali is the most important woman in the world. There's also a woman in Canada. She has led the charge to get people to open their eyes about the homophobia, anti-Semitism in this religion. And to me, I'll say this, and the absolute silence about these events in that religion, the absolute silence. All you hear about is the rejoicing. You hear in a general way about the parties, the social media. This is just so bizarre. And if we were talking about the Church of Scientology, we would be literally doing something different. But somehow, because the numbers are so great, and this is the decline of Western civilization. This is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely the beginning of the end to me in terms of the idea of a Western set of values, just look at the money and treasure and blood loss to this now. And if anybody says in their mind, well, it's only 50 people, or it's only 4,000 people, or they start equating it with the other mass shootings done by white people or black people or Asian people, it is a complete cop-out on truth. So if you're a person interested in truth, you don't necessarily have to agree with me. But the fact that we can't have that conversation, and there's only one, as I said, half-nut job presidential candidate, who even has the guts to say the word that starts with I. You're not even allowed to say the word because you're called a name. Christopher Hitchens put it right. And it's about the word that people call obia. Okay, he goes, it's a word created by morons to deal with idiots and all of this and all. I mean, I don't want to go too far into it, but these are the people within the Muslim world that are trying to talk about this, to say there is actually a group of us that don't think this way and think this is abhorrent and don't think women should be genitally mutilated and don't think women should have to cover their faces and don't think women shouldn't be able to go to school. But the numbers, the hundreds of millions of people who do feel that way. You would think in the Western world, you would think in Toronto, Canada, New York, Washington, D.C., people would say, well, if that's your worldview, you can have that in Yemen. You can have that in Saudi Arabia. But now it's in Orlando. It's in New York. And I go right back to this. 50 people, 75 people, the most beautiful, peace-loving people on the planet, gone, blown away, and we can't even dare talk about the person who did it without just saying, well, it's guns, it's guns, it's guns. Well, the U.S. is never going to change on guns. Sandy Hook is a school that was shot up. Kids were murdered. No gun laws were changed. Somehow we're going to change gun laws after a gay bar is shot up? That's ridiculous. How about looking at the ideology that makes somebody who is admittedly homophobic take the next step rather than running for Congress or running for the Senate and saying no gay marriage, walking into a gay bar and ambushing in the most cowardly way 75 of the most beautiful people, loving people, open people, Western people, persecuted people on the planet. The very fact that this man took out persecuted people should get the world going absolutely apeshit. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with revenge.
Ari Goldkind joins us. Would you ever consider getting a gun?
No. I think the idea that guns would have stopped this is insane, and Florida is the most gun-carrying nation in the states next to Texas, and it would have made no difference. This whole idea that if more people had guns, the good guys would stop the bad guys with guns, it's utterly insane. The Republican National Committee just came out and said that today. It is literally insane, and all people have to do, because you have listeners everywhere, is in Canada, there's been 3 mass shootings in 15 years. 3. Because we don't have guns here. There have been 7 in the United States since Monday. 3 in Canada in 15 years, 7 in the United States since Monday. And moreover, Australia had a gigantic shooting, said that's it with guns. If you have a gun, you're going away. The key is thrown out. How many mass shootings since Australia did away with guns a decade ago? None. 0, none, nada. This is an insane conversation about guns, but guns is the easy one. It's the easy conversation because it doesn't talk about race, religion, sex, or any of the hot-button issues that the left has ensured you cannot have an opinion about now without being called a name. And my politics are very, very left on many issues, but to see the left letting these gay people die in vain, not coming to the defense of Jews, not coming to the defense of all sorts of people who are persecuted, unbelievable to me. And by the way, a self-fulfilling prophecy where more of this is coming, not less. Shame on President Obama for that stupid speech today.
You sound like my grandfather. Ari Goldkind is hanging out with us.
Better than your drunk uncle.
Wouldn't guns, no guns, whatever? Do you still believe that extremists, radicalists would find a way to kill with whatever means possible?
Yes, and we need to stop calling it radical or extreme. When it keeps happening at this rate, at this frequency, over this amount of years, over and over, with knives, bombs, guns, planes, stop calling it radical and extreme. It is a disservice, particularly to the peaceful people in a certain religion, to keep calling it something that it's not. I invite anybody to look at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie.
You get nervous with this stuff? You look over your shoulder a little more now?
No, because I think it's, as I said to you, without being hyperbolic at all, I do think this is just the beginning. It's the soccer stadium that they got lucky in Europe. Don't forget, that was extraordinarily lucky that guy blew the bomb up on himself without getting into the stadium. This is an everyday occurrence. Think through, a police commissioner and his wife stabbed in front of their house yesterday night. It's not even a footnote. It's on CNN in the bottom of the page. This is every day, and there is nothing being done about it. And what does it tell you, by the way, guys? And this is something that's just coming out now throughout the afternoon. His wife knew he was going to do this. So as much as people are saying, well, we're going to go fly and get ISIS and drop – that's what Obama said today. We're going to go drop a bomb on ISIS in Syria. We're reducing their territory. This is a man living in Orlando, the home of Disney World, Universal Studios, where everybody takes their children. His wife drove him to buy the guns. His wife drove him to the gay club to case it before he did it. This is how planned it was. And his wife tried to talk him out of it, but he wouldn't listen. These are American citizens. What is the one thing that all of this ties into, that they all share, that they all have in common? It's one thing. And President Obama says, you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to think it. What a disgrace.
Ari Goldkind, more importantly, what do you think about the brewing triple threat match between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose?
I don't like it. I don't love the triple threat. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think Money in the Bank on Sunday on the WWE Network, I'll pretend I'm promoting it, I think is one of the best pay-per-views that is not called WrestleMania. It will be fantastic, and it will ease my mind from the other ridiculousness and disgracefulness of this week. It will relax me.
Well, you know what? We appreciate everything you do for us, and you don't drink, so go and relax watching WWE, although you'd have to get me really drunk to go in.
I'm going to come up with another way, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Ari Goldkind. We truly appreciate your honesty, your candidness, and your opinions.
Thank you. I'm sorry for not being funny.
No, listen, I mean, this is, we work on a station, Canada Laughs, and you can't always be funny. And there's a lot of comedians who will do material for an hour at a time, and maybe only 20 minutes it will be funny. A lot of it will be sort of inspirational, motivational, or dealing with the issues at hand going on with the world. And right now it's one of those times where there's a lot going on with this world, and unfortunately a lot of tragedy that comes with that. Thank you again.
Pleasure.
Okay, Ari Goldkind, everyone. Back in a moment here on Canada Laughs, Channel 168.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show. Canada Laughs, SiriusXM 168.
Hey, what's up? I'm Roddy. Subscribe to our channel. You're going to love it. For the rest of this episode, you got to check out our podcast online on the website. Go check it out. You won't be disappointed.